Yeah.
Well, let's get started with Apathian. Is it Apathian or Apathian? How do you say it?
Apathian, yeah.
How did that, where did the origins of that come from?
So basically, I mean, when the lockdown started happening, I had done a lot of touring. Like As Lay Dying had put out our record Shaped by Fire in September of 2019, and we had gone to South America, Europe, US, Southeast Asia, and then this artist that I manage, Author and Punisher, who you know, we went and did dates with Tool. So I jumped on some shows with Tool in the US, and then we went to Australia and New Zealand. And then, I went to India. As Lay Dying did India as well, tied into that Southeast Asia tour. So like a lot of touring, which was exciting. We're promoting, a lot of good things, big tours. And then the pandemic happens and I was like excited. I was like, oh, I can like relax now. And, but I've realized that I'm just an anxious person in general. So when I don't have enough to do, it's just like, I start going crazy. I get antsy. So, and I was like, well, I don't want to necessarily work on new As Lay Dying. We're at some point we're going to finish promoting this record. And so I was just excited to do something different. And a buddy of mine gave me an 8-string at one point, and I always just kind of noodled around on it. And I was like, man, this lower tuning range is so much fun, especially maybe with like my kind of riff style. So I was just kind of doing little riffs here and there. And then I finally was like, you know what, I might have like enough to start a song. And I knew from the get-go, I didn't want it to have vocals. I just wanted to highlight the guitar playing and the musical side of it. So I just kind of started doing. I got on my computer, and you can riff out on the couch for forever, but it's not until you put like, I say like pencil to paper and like actually getting it, down. So yeah, I started doing that, and some friends of mine, I'd send it to them like, hey, what do you think about this? And their excitement got me more excited on it.
Right.
And then I was just like, you know what? I don't need to necessarily focus on doing an album or an EP. The music industry throughout the pandemic has been sort of, streaming, listening sales, vinyl sales have been going up, but there hasn't really been new material coming out because every band is like, well, we can't put something out if we can't promote it properly via touring and all that. So I was like, I'm just going to put it out because no one's putting anything out for the most part. A lot of artists have, but it was just sort of my, little window of, hey, I'm just going to get it out there. And I don't have to worry about touring or anything, and no agenda behind it other than I just want people to hear what I've been busy working on.
Cool.
Yeah.
And plus it gave you a little excuse to like get fine-tuned on the 8-string.
Yeah, totally. And doing As Lay Dying for almost 20 years now, you kind of find it hard. Like part of you is like, man, I've got it dialed now. Now like I've got the experience, and now my confidence is raised with it. But then half the battle is still staying inspired and wanting to, push yourself and push the range of what As Lay Dying can do. But, with an 8-string, it's like, I have nothing to lose here. This is just foreign territory to me. And I think people will understand that. But naturally, my sort of, my riff style, my songwriting style will come out to a degree in kind of like everything I do. So it's cool for fans of As Lay Dying to be stoked on it. And then some people who just like it for what it is, not attaching it to anything previously that I've done.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw some of the influences I hear at you.
Okay.
And then you can kind of bounce them back at me or tell me that I'm totally off.
Okay.
I'm hearing some Devin Townsend.
Okay. I will say I don't listen to much Devin Townsend,
Okay.
but I did see him open up for Gojira. Like I never listened to Strapping Young Lad or any of that, but I knew it was highly respected in the metal community. And then when I saw him open up for Gojira, maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, it was awesome. It was a really cool experience. Sonically, so much power, and then he can get away with doing so many different things. So
Right.
that kind of excites me because he's not this guy just trying to fit in a bubble. He's just doing what's exciting to him creatively. So in a way, like maybe that sense of like freedom that I picked up from him was something I wanted to do. But musically, I wouldn't cite him as like any sort of inspiration, I guess.
Joe Satriani, Steve Vai.
That's first off, that's really cool for you to say.
I would lean more towards the Joe Satriani because I know he's a sci-fi fan.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
So Joe Satriani, funny enough, like I actually don't listen to either of those guys. But I used to actually. Surfing with the Alien was one of my guitar teacher's favorite albums back in the day, and there's the song Midnight on there that I started relearning by ear. It's like this finger tapping thing, really cool, kind of a classical sound. And maybe during the pandemic, I think maybe on one of my runs, I put that on, and so maybe subconsciously that sort of the vibe of Micro, the Apathian song, is mostly big, open, and airy. Like on that first solo section, that's where I say like, yeah, that might have a little bit of the Vai or Satriani sort of feel to it. But yeah, those guys are amazing. I like David Gilmour's my favorite guitar player and my favorite singer.
And so, I could hear that too. I can hear that too. Yeah.
So yeah. Anytime you can get away with some soaring, guitar bendies, I will try to do that in the name of David Gilmour. But yeah, like I'm trying. This was kind of a new project for me to sort of push that progressive ground as a soloist as well. Besides, rhythmically telling the song.
Right. When I heard it, I immediately, and maybe it was in my head, and that's why I want to talk to you a little bit about it, because maybe I'm totally off. I have been before.
Yeah.
In my head, I heard a lot of keyboards.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so they're there. It's not guitars that you're just messing with. It's keyboards and electronics.
Oh, there's layers.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, because sometimes I'll get my guitar sounds confused with my synth sounds. So I wanted to make sure that we were on the level.
For sure. There's times where I can actually pull up. I have stems. The stems are available on Bandcamp because I wanted people to. And how I incorporated synths and all that is just more of a textural layer that you just feel that it's there. And then sometimes I added little notes and things like that, kind of construct a melody here and there. But for the most part, I wanted it to be more, I guess, lush, which for a band like As I Lay Dying, I generally do it with a guitar, and it would just be, all the high end would be cued off, and it just be kind of there, and it kind of fills. It's like that wall of sound sort of thing. But yeah, I definitely with this was excited. I viewed the synths and all of the effects as like an instrument, or like, if there was a guy in the band, he would be doing all that stuff.
Like an orchestra.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's what I figured. So the other thing that I thought was, this guy wants to make video game music.
Yeah.
Like epic, solid video game music. I'm not talking about the 8-bit. I'm talking about like legit, like I'm trying to think.
Doom was like something my friends would I guess relate it to. And 100%, that's something that I would love to do. And it's not that I even play a lot of video games. I'm a fan of audio accompanying the visual aspects of everything. So like even for movies, my ultimate goal is to be scoring movies someday.
Okay.
Like Hans Zimmer is my like ultimate hero, Trent Reznor, James Newton Howard, like Alan Silvestri, Danny Elfman. All right, enough. But the video game world, I mean, that's such a huge industry as well. And so it's something that I would be excited to eventually, contribute to.
Right. I think it was the guitar runs, like your frantic guitar runs. That was what got me, because I imagined like a game going on.
Totally.
And plus I listened to a bit of video game music because of, Rocky from Living Sacrifice. He's a video game composer.
So cool.
Or he does music for video games. And immediately when I heard this stuff, I was like, wow, this could like almost be paired with Rocky stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Check out what he does. But
if you just look up Rocky Gray, he goes by his name.
Sweet.
Yeah. But it's solid, man. But it's more like Metal Gear Solid, like metal, like video game music.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
The intent, that's, the aggression and intensity of metal music. I mean, it's very similar to playing a video game, in a way. And it's funny because we have, within like a lot of bands I played with, like the car chase riff is what we consider, like we always categorize certain riffs. And I'm like, the car chase riff, like, you're watching a Michael Bay movie and like this riff would be playing in the background. Same as it relates to a video game, I guess. So yeah, it's cool to hear these things because it's sort of, so I guess in the back of my head, what I envisioned it possibly working for, and something I would definitely consider pursuing in the future too.
Cool. Yeah, definitely. Well, you're definitely on the right track. I can tell you that.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely so.
Awesome.
Is your time spent with Author and Punisher? Did that kind of move you into an industrial avenue, like where you wanted to kind of try to take some chances with the keyboards? And I don't think when I hear him, I don't think keyboards and I don't think, synths and stuff. I think organic industrial.
Yeah.
Like this dude's got like stuff on stage he's beating on and hitting and stuff.
Yeah.
But did that influence you at all to say like, hey man, you know what? There's something to this industrial thing that I kind of dig this.
Yeah.
Were you always into it anyway?
No, that's the thing is like, I generally, it's like newfound excitement, it inspires me to like, try to not emulate it, but just sort of do something that's like, oh, this is sort of something that's fresh to me, and let's see what I can do to make it, to create something that's just as exciting for me. So, I've spent a lot of time in the past, I think almost 5 years working with Author and Punisher, Tristan, and it's hard to not. As a creative person and like an artist, I'm constantly absorbing every sound that I'm hearing. So if I'm at front of house for all of his shows, if I'm helping him mix his record, if I'm recording on his record, if I'm in it, in that universe, it's naturally just going to get like absorbed into my brain. And so it's funny, like, I'll start with micro, I start with the guitar. And then as I'm building sort of the percussive elements and the drums and all that stuff, and I'm in this BPM where it's like, oh, like I can create this sort of industrial stomp. And I'm like, man, I remember it didn't all come together with the industrial vibe until I started adding the hi-hats. And then I did that and I was like, whoa, like that changed everything. And so when I released the first teaser, and you would hit me up and a lot of people hit me up. Yeah, I'm digging the industrial vibes. And I'm like, cool. It's there, but the song as a whole is not necessarily an industrial.
Sure. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, because I mean, for me, that's my background in music as far as like I was in a band, it was industrial.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've been into that since I was like, I don't know, 18, 17, 16.
What
You
like
know,
what kind of bands?
dude, it started with Ministry and it went to Nine Inch Nails and it went to Frontline Assembly and Skinny Puppy and Front 242,
Yeah.
Godflesh,
Yeah.
Pitch Shifter, original Pitch Shifter, not the pop rock Pitch Shifter.
Oh.
Um,
Ooh, that sounds interesting.
and it
Okay.
just kind of moved into, now there's bands like Realize. I think they're out of Oklahoma. They're solid.
Okay.
Circle of Dust.
Yeah.
Pretty much anything that dude does.
Gotcha.
Circle of Dust, Cell Dweller. But even like the noisier stuff, like Author and Punisher, that kind of stuff. There was a band called Babyland. That reminds me a lot of him.
Gotcha. Three Teeth is another band that's.
Oh yeah, those guys. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and we always, Author and Punisher would play shows with them too, and that's when I first heard them, and I was like, man, these guys are awesome. And I felt like industrial music was going to have this big resurgence, and maybe it's still. I mean, COVID obviously kind of broke things up, and why not have a more dystopian sound after what we've all just been through? But like, it was funny how like the nu metal trend kind of came in the past 5 years. And nu metal to me was always like bad, like a bad word, but all the kids that are just a few years younger than me that maybe I wouldn't have gone to high school with, they're like, that's what we grew up with, and they love it. And so it's having that sort of that resurgence again. And some of it I do like. I can't totally hate on nu metal, but like,
oh yeah, well I can't either. I mean,
but like the best of it, I'm like, yep, I totally get that. And I just like a good song. So it can, have these elements that, people might, and, this look that people might, not be into. But I'm like, man, if that that song tells a good story, I'm in. It doesn't matter who it is. So anyway, I felt like maybe, and this is my manager brain turning on. I don't like maybe this nu metal thing is going, when people start getting back over it, industrial is going to come in and kind of be the take over. And, a lot of these younger bands, they're going to start building a scene around it.
Right. And yeah, like Three Teeth and, man, there's another one too. There's a few of them now.
Yeah.
Youth Code.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, man, I mean, I've started doing it again. Mm-hmm. Me and my old band member got back together and we're writing songs and stuff now. And we've already put out like 2 or 3 singles.
Yeah.
Some of them are with the Becoming the Archetype guy.
Mm-hmm.
Arthur from Living Sacrifice just played bass on one of them.
That's right. You told me. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, dude. I mean, we're starting to do it too. I mean,
fun sound.
But yeah, even like I noticed like Fit for a King, their song, man, what is that song? The big one. Like their big song off this new record that they just put out.
Gotcha. Okay.
I can't remember what it's called, man, but it's solid.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much, it's industrial. I mean, the drums there's beating, the drums sound very, very triggered.
Mechanical. Yeah.
And there's like some keyboards and stuff in it. But yeah, man. So, I mean, I think I agree with you in saying that I definitely think that it's regaining some ground that it lost for quite a while.
Yeah, and it makes sense that it would, just with how technology and music software is developing, that electronic EDM, like the sample libraries that you can get, and all these sounds that can be built. It's like now industrial can sound, it'll sound maybe more processed than ever, but the samples can be sounding so good. And I guess like with Author and Punisher, there is that fine line of him wanting to be processed sounding, but also this sort of organic, just grindy, low synth bass kind of thing too.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, he wants to keep it real to an extent.
Absolutely, absolutely. But a guy like Tristan, he's not one to hate on technology
Sure.
developing. So it's cool for me to be a part of, because when I can sit down and I can be creative, I these new influences are like coming out through me. So it's like, as a creative person, I'm just excited being around creativity, no matter like who and what it is. I mean, as long as it's good.
Right, right. So what are your plans with Apathian? Do you have plans? I mean, do you have like a long-term goal of, do you want to do an EP? Do you want to just keep doing singles?
Yeah, I mean, and why partially it's called micro is like, this is a mic, it's like the literal sense of it, like just a micro little step, little baby step towards building something. And they're like, I try to not get too far ahead of myself and have these sort of grandiose ideas. But yeah, I mean, 50% it's like big vision, and then the other 50% of me is like, well, how can I just complete new tasks in order and in a timely manner. So yeah, this was like a big cool thing for me to like dip my toes in, get it out. But yeah, eventually the goal has been to do an EP and sort of maybe kind of create possibly like a sort of, I love tying the whole sci-fi element into it. And it's just the vibe I got as I wrote the song. And, when I tell my art guy, like, I just give him like 3 words. I'm like, dystopian sci-fi. And we kind of look around, see what's out there. And like, yep, we kind of create a storyboard for what we want. Same with my director, Monty Legaspi. And that's the sort of universe that I want this sound to be in. So from that, on the audio side, so from the visual side, 100%, like we could build some sort of sci-fi universe with the artwork and the visuals.
Sure.
So, because that's just, like I'm not like a Star Wars dude. I'm not dissing on anyone who's like into that stuff, but like I love sci-fi. Like Aliens is like one of my favorite movies, and like I just think now more than ever, like it's like very inspirational for me. So I want to I just want to put a lot more time into it.
Right. So I'm going to ask some weird questions now.
I love this. Yeah.
The first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to get this out of the way.
Okay.
What's going on with As I Lay Down? Let's just get it out of the way, and then we can move on.
This is the first time I've talked about this. I mean, the band is still active, so
yeah, I figured as much.
It may not look like it, but I mean, it's weird to get questions of like, "Oh, are you still in the band?" And I'm like, has anyone ever stated that I wouldn't be? But like, yeah, when COVID hit, a lot of bands were doing like live streams, trying to do as much as they could, and I watched a lot of them, and I thought they were really cool, but felt like for a band like us, the energy and the attitude of the music is, it's got to be in a live sense. It doesn't seem as exciting to be playing to just cameras in an empty room. Granted, you can do some really awesome production.
Right.
So like, I was partially excited at the idea of it. And then it was like, you know what? No, it's for us, our band, it's all about being in the fans' faces, being in the room together. Everyone's dripping sweat. Like we're not like a hardcore sounding band, but we came up from like the hardcore scene in our community. So that's kind of like our vibe. And so we didn't feel like there was necessarily any reason to commit to something that, you know, just ultimately wouldn't work, didn't seem like it would work well for us.
Or that you just didn't feel.
Yeah, just not feeling it, because it just seems like it seems like a very stale thing, even though production can be really awesome. Most bands, I would say, aren't really playing live. They're, you know, touching up audio and doing all that stuff, which is totally cool. But like, I just feel like, and that was the best, you know, a lot of bands could do for this time. And I know some bands were trying to promote records, and they had tours lined up, and and have those canceled, and then to say, well, we're just going to play this one big weekend of shows or something. I'm like, that's what they had to do. And so for a band like us, like I said before, we had done a lot of tours right as we dropped our last album. So we didn't feel the need or pressure to have to like to do anything. And so, and to be honest, kind of slowing things down on the As They Dying side was you know, it's been pretty nice. So granted, I think, you know, some of us are really anxious to start working on some new material.
Right.
And then, you know, start seeing what's possible next year for touring.
Okay, cool. All right. Yeah, that's fine. I was just trying, I mean, of course, you know that I want to know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, why would I not want to know? I've been there since the beginning. So, I mean, you know, I always think about you guys and just kind of like, you know, I wonder what they're up to. I wonder how they're doing. I wonder how, you know, I mean, I haven't talked to Jordan since he was here.
Yeah.
You know, or Josh. I think I've maybe hit you and Josh up here and there.
Yeah.
But just to kind of, you know, just to see how you guys are doing and see what the lay of the land is, you know, what your goals are as far as like moving forward.
Yeah, we definitely have. I mean, maybe some more than others, just as it is with every band, just how motivated you are, what aspirations you have, you want to, you know, just want to accomplish. But, you know, our band, we went away for a few years, and we came back and the fans accepted us with open arms. So we don't want to let them down by like taking more time off again, but it's good that as long as we are in a healthy place, like we're going to come back and do things the best we can for the fans.
Cool. All right. All right. All right. Now my weird questions.
Okay.
And I think you're suited for this because we've been discussing sci-fi stuff.
Okay.
I mean, I guess first off, who would you cite as your main musical influences?
In
like
general,
say yeah, like let's say your top 3 people that come to mind.
Influence, just to be creative. Sorry, I have so many different things that I like pull from that, you know, when I'm in As They Dying mode, I'm
right,
you know, trying to listen to things that, I mean, it all started for me with like At the Gates, In Flames, Living Sacrifice was in the mix for sure. When I was a teenager, but I listened to a lot of punk as well, like being from San Diego, like punk bands where the guitar players were metalheads, like Strung Out was one of my favorite bands. And like, just to have a fast right hand, an understanding of guitar harmonies. So when my transition to metal happened, you know, it was working its way towards there, you know, from when I started just wanting to get into faster stuff.
Right.
But sometimes when I am trying to get influenced for As They Dying, I'm just trying to listen to somebody who can write a good, like the arrangement is something I really like admire, of like, you know, I like riffs, I got the riffs in my head, I can always find that, but how can I structure like a very concise song that the listener from start to finish, I have their attention. And that's sort of, you know, the big focus, considering everyone's attention span is just so minor.
Right.
So how can you get somebody to not, when they listen to a song, not be on their phone, trying to multitask and do other things, to where they are just fully like in the song. So I'm trying to think. I mean,
let me put it this way. Maybe this will be easier for you.
okay, yeah. What do you got?
I say, favorite musicians, favorite bands. What comes to mind immediately?
Hans Zimmer, um, Muse, Matt Bellamy from
Cool.
Muse.
Okay.
Michael Ackerfeld, Opeth.
Okay.
Eddie Van Halen. I listen to a lot of Swedish, like Cannibal Corpse.
Right.
Pantera, Dimebag, obviously. And I also have like my Americana side, where I'm like, I just want to listen to Ryan Adams all day and like hear how he tells a story, like but most of the time I would say, Ghost is another great band, just based on like from start to finish. I'm just like, these guys are like, no one ever says that Ghost has a Boston sort of sound. I love Boston. Tom Scholz is a genius. Iron Maiden. Yeah, I think that's probably enough.
That's cool. Yeah, no.
Iron Maiden is like the biggest, because like I play the Strat body for metal because of Iron Maiden. And everyone thinks of Strats as like the blue, like playing blues and Clapton like stuff, but Iron Maiden is like, they took it to the next energetic level.
Right.
Yeah. But more often than not, Alice in Chains, I can always say, like, big influence of mine. Like Hans Zimmer is sort of like puts my mind at ease when I listen to what he does and how he his melodies and just how he's building, and he can just sort of break down a song. So yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Think of this as like a Rorschach test questions. Okay. But not visual.
Sorry for my long-winded answers. I'm just a lot to process. I like it. I like this game. Yeah.
Okay, so favorite superhero and why?
Oh man. I love Deadpool because I just love Ryan Reynolds' sense of humor, and I love how crude the movies are, how funny they are, but how good the action is. Love that. And then like Christian Bale, Batman Begins. I don't care for Dark Knight. For the Dark Knight Rises is okay, but Batman Begins is like, to me, the most serious of all Batmans.
Okay.
And that's what I love about it. And it's also Hans Zimmer. So, how about this? Bruce Willis and Unbreakable.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
I don't know if
definitely.
He is kind of a super. I guess that's the whole comic book.
Yeah,
sort of thing.
yeah, that's the whole premise. You're right.
I love M. Night movies, even some of the terrible ones I still like. But yeah, Unbreakable. Bruce Willis, Unbreakable.
Cool. Favorite movies? Like movies that you just always can return to.
So my favorite movie is Point Break, and I'm a child of the. I was
nice. That's interesting. Okay.
Born in '85, but I grew up in the '90s, and funny enough, James Cameron was the executive producer because he was married to Catherine Bigelow, the director at the time.
Right.
So, and then I love Swayze. Keanu, I think is one of the worst actors of all time, but in Point Break, he executes that character perfectly, just as like Mark Wahlberg does on Boogie Nights, So yeah, Point Break is always one of my go-tos. Aliens, Terminator 2. Actually, I had this joke that Point Break was my favorite movie, and then Point Break the remake was my second favorite movie. But but not really. Even though I don't think it was that bad. Other ones that it's fun. Oh, Interstellar, Inception, like big Christopher Nolan fan, although Tenet was not my favorite. But The Village, M. Night
Oh, I
one,
love that movie. Yeah.
The Village and Signs, huge fan. Connecting Mel Gibson to it. Lethal Weapon 2 is one of my favorite movies. Apparently I like sequels, I guess. So, yeah, that's probably enough.
Cool. Okay. All right. Um, how, and I know this gets kind of touchy with you guys,
Oh,
but I love this question. um, are you religious?
oh, wow.
And how does that figure into your work, both musically and career-wise? I guess with you it would be the same thing, but
Yeah, I don't subscribe to any sort of religion or anything. You know, I grew up in the church when I was younger. I think, you know, the band was obviously identified with that because we all grew up in the church when we were younger. But, you know, just as some people, when they get older, they realize, oh, this isn't, you know, I've found something else. And so, you know, more so nowadays, you know, I subscribe to more so like this, like stoicism as a philosophy, which is something that helps keep me sort of on the level. And just my approach to life in general is just with how I can deal with my own emotions, deal with other people's emotions and reactions to things, and, you know, not feel defeated if something's not going my way. There's this saying in stoicism called amor fati, which is like loving your fate, essentially. No matter what happens to you, like you just love that you are existing, you are a being, and like nothing's going to take that away from you because you are choosing just to be accepting of the situation. And that's sort of kind of like the Apathian name sort of like stems from Apathia. So it's sort of like ultimately control over your emotions. And since and the pandemic sort of helped me get into reading a lot more things and just trying to have a lot more self-reflection of like, who is it that I want to be? What are my values and my priorities? So like meditation has come in to be, I start every day, 20 minutes meditation. My new thing is trying to add 10 seconds on to each time to where I want to be able to, at some point, meditate for an hour. I had a friend who did that and said it was an amazing experience. So yeah, meditation is something that has helped my mind because I'm a very anxious person, as maybe this interview is showing. But I'm able to sort of connect the dots and process just by how that helps me sort of have a moment of pause in between things and not just be overwhelmed by my anxious brain.
okay. All right. So what do you want? I guess tell us what you got coming up. Are you writing new Apathian stuff already?
So I have the second song written, and so I just got to polish that up. That's going to, you know, take a considerable amount of work. But currently, we're finishing up the new Author and Punisher record, which I played guitar on as well. So Tristan was just said, he's like, hey, what do you think about playing guitar on the album? And I was like, well, you don't have a guitar player live. And then slowly the question came, do you want to play guitar with me live? And I'm like, I don't know. We'll cross that bridge. I mean, of course I would, because sonically it's such a powerful sound and Tristan and I get along really well. But like, yeah, so it's like, let's start with the record. Let's see what I can contribute to where, you know, your sound can expand a little bit more if you want to incorporate guitars. So it's been really cool because his sort of low synth sound is this buzzy sort of, it sounds like an HM2 pedal, like Swedish death metal, that chainsaw sound is what his synths do. So I kind of did that on the guitar side to bring that snarl to it as well. So mixed together, it can sound more, gnarly than it has before. And then there's definitely a lot more shoegaze elements, to where just some nice clean melodies coming through. So that's something I was able to contribute to it. And so yeah, that's been taking up a lot of my time lately, is just getting this all finalized. And it's been a really cool collaborative process.
So when you play guitar with him, is it like on every song, or just as the songs? Let me put it this way. Would you consider yourself to be a guest star, or would you consider yourself to almost be like a member? Like, are you on every song?
Pretty much every song. And I wrote with the intention in mind that if I or if somebody else were to play, they'd be playing the whole song. Not just like a little snippet of guitar here and there. It's like, no, it's crafted with the foundation of what he has already.
Okay, so it's part of the actual structure of the song.
Correct, yeah. And things dip here and there. There's a lot of automation that goes into his thing, but overall it's like, yeah, there's guitars. They are there. And it's cool because, like, I guess in a lot of industrial music, it's maybe more so power chords, kind of heavy, chunky power chords, which, very effective and powerful. But to sort of, over an industrial part, kind of have a little, like the band ISIS or someone like that, that sort of meandery kind of texture to it. It's kind of a cool combination.
So what you're doing with Author and Punisher, you wouldn't consider to be your garden variety riffing industrial metal?
No, not
chug,
at all.
Chug, 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 chug.
Chug, chugs, but like it just, if the part calls for it, you can't deny it,
Right.
Yeah.
But that's not the whole idea wasn't to make it more industrial metal,
No,
like pop oriented, to where it was like structured. You get what I'm saying?
I totally get what you're saying. And no,
like Ministry, where there's like verse, chorus, verse, chorus, verse, chorus, verse, chorus, bridge.
Yeah, not at all. There's definitely a lot, I say it all the time, there's a lot more dynamics in the playing, to where from part to part, I'm not playing the same style. I'm not doing power chords the whole song. I'm not doing just little notey things the whole time, because like that would take away from the focus of the song. So it's not all about the guitar playing. It's all about serving the song the best I can. So, and when he says, he's like, I love what you did, let's do it. And I'm like, awesome. That's cool. Like very gratifying to know, all right, this is a style as well. Like, say, the Apathian thing that I'm not known for, like, this is new territory for me. And that's what I get the most excited about.
Okay. Is there anything you'd want to say in closing to anybody, As I Lay Dying fans, Apathian, Author and Punisher, or whatever?
No, just anyone who's ever, kept up with what I've done, from, numerous bands that I played with, or, that I'm still continuing to play with. I appreciate all the support, and hopefully we'll get back to, being in a room together and playing shows and sweating and singing along. Like, that's, that when I talk about my values and my priorities in life, that, like, always performing has been just something that is fulfilling for me. So to have been without it for so long, it's just like, I'm really anxious and excited to get back to doing that.
Right. What do you have? Do you want to give any like call outs for your social media, or like websites, or how to get a hold of you and your music?
Yeah, like I sort of just, I tell everyone, just follow me, my personal, like at Phil Sgrosso, or on Instagram. I have my YouTube channel, Phil Sgrosso Official, I think, and Facebook, like those things, because I created Apathian pages as well, but like all that stuff's going to funnel through me anyway. So yeah, just at Phil Sgrosso. philsgrosso.com is my website. That's the hub for everything. So any new stuff coming up, I do have some new things in the works too that will be coming out soon. So philsgrosso.com will have all that.
Cool. Okay. All right. Well, hey, man, thank you very much. And I appreciate you taking the time. It was good catching up with you, man.
Yeah, good seeing you, Eric. Thanks, man.